Introducing DPL CAD Standard 2026 Tool Palette and Lisp Routine Changes. This tutorial provides a demonstration of the changes to the LSSA DPL CAD drafting template, the tool palettes, and the Lisp file in the 2026 release, which introduces a change to block labels for bearing and distances. As part of the rollout of the new Closures Diagram tab in DPL Plans Lodgement, LSSA has developed a new Lisp file that now produces a block for distance and bearings when drafting DPL plans. In addition, we have created some supplementary tools to work with these new blocks. This change has been made so that we can have better extraction of the annotated label data for the new DPL closures report, meaning less data in closures to be confirmed by job editors and drafters prior to plan lodgement. The key changes: the BD and BDP routines operate in the same way as the existing tools. So BD bearing and distance routine selecting a line will now produce a block with the values, either the bearing or the distance, as an attribute. And similarly for the BDP, point-to-point bearing and distance routine, selecting point-to-point will now also produce a block with the value, either the bearing or the distance, as an attribute. In this quick video, we're going to look at the updated bearing and distance tool in our LSSA CAD standard template and existing tools that have been updated to support the new block labels. We'll also have a look at the new supplementary tools added to the tool palette, which will help with efficiency and accuracy for adding bearing and distance blocks in DPL DWGs. So what's changed? The bearing and distance labels tool will now produce your bearing and distance labels as a block, containing the start and end coordinates of the selected line. So this is an example of the block. It will be on the layer. It's retrospective layer. It's an annotative block and it has an annotative scale which can be changed. It has the start and end coordinates of the line that was selected when producing the label. And it has the label value as an attribute. So this label value can be updated in the attributes field here, or you can double check. Click to access the enhanced attribute editor in AutoCAD. Using the LSSA DPL CAD standard template, when you place your bearing and distance labels using the BD and BDP tools in the tool palette, they'll automatically follow the new format if you have the new Lisp loaded and the correct LSSA_label block. So selecting a bearing and distance, it's the same process as it has been previously, where you can just select your lines and it will produce the labels for bearings and distances. The difference is, as we've explained, these labels are now blocks and they have the start and end coordinates of the line that we used to produce them. Point-to-point bearing and distance will operate in the same way. We'll be able to just select a start point and an end point, and it will produce that label as a block label now. We'll be able to use the swap text routine as normal if we want to just swap the text over for the blocks. Other than that, all of the same functionality applies. We've got our suffixes, which we can add a custom suffix to the block. We've introduced a calc suffix, so we can add a calc label to a block as well. And that will just update with the suffix. Because the blocks refer to the line that was used to generate them, they will no longer be able to be copied across from one line to another across multiple lines within a DWG. So to make the drafting these labels more efficient, we've added some new tools to the tool palette. And the first one is BDC. So this is where you can choose between a bearing or a distance. So here we can select a bearing or a distance. I'm going to select a distance, put the height in, and select the lines that I want to produce the distance for. We can also use the BDPC, which is where you can choose a bearing or distance by selecting point to point. So we have updated some tools to support the block annotation labels, and they include your copy data and the suffix blocks, as I've explained. So if we want to change any of these to copy data, we can just use the copy data routine, select the block label. That will update the layer that it sits on, and it will update the value with the dash line underneath. And this is the same for your bearings as well. As I said before, these labels are annotative, and so they will behave in the same way as the existing text labels, where your annotative scale is reflected in the label itself, and that corresponds with your viewport annotative scale. The next routine that we have introduced is the text to block conversion routine. So this will convert your existing DPL text annotation labels to our new block labels. So this can be used for drawings that have previously been drafted in the old LSSA template, and so they've got existing distance and bearing and copied labels that were generated with the previous DPL tool palette and Lisp routine. So they would have been produced as text. So they will exist on their correct layers, and we'll be able to use the text to block routine to be able to update those labels across the drawing. So here it will just give me a prompt to put in the layer name. So I'll just put in a dist, which is for a distances. So it's run the routine. It's got a little line in the command down here that says label still to be replaced is 0. And so we know that all of the labels on the text labels on the ADIST layer have now been updated to our new format block with their coordinate start and coordinates ends of the line that they're associated with. So you can do this for your existing drawings that you've already drafted and upload them into your DPL uploads. Or you can, when you're bringing your text and line work in from your external surveying packages into your updated DPL CAD template, if you're using the new Lisp and you've got the new block added to your support files, then you'll be able to run the text to block conversion. If they're on the right layers, then they will be able to be converted into the block labels ready to upload into DPL. In this case, we've run the text to block on the distances. We can do the same for the bearing layer. And again, that says labels to be replaced is 0. So it's updated all of our bearing layer labels as blocks with our coordinate start and coordinate end attributes showing. In this drawing is fairly simple. The Lisp routine has had no issues in converting those labels. What we're going to find though is that's not always the case. We have a pretty good hit rate, but we've gone for accuracy over volume with this routine. So occasionally you'll have some labels which will not be able to be converted, and we will highlight them by showing them surrounded by a yellow box. So we'll have a look at how to deal with that in this drawing here. So if I run the text to block routine over the distances, it updates fairly quickly, and in our command line it's telling us that it has been unable to replace 3 of your existing text labels with the new block label. So sometimes these can be a little bit tricky to find. I found the best way to do it is just to nominate a annotative scale that you don't have, and turn off your all visible annotation scale, and that means that we can see quite easily these 3 yellow boxes, and they will be highlighting our text label that was unable to be converted. So if we just turn our anno all visible back on, we can see we've got 3 distances here which haven't been picked up. So as I said, we have a pretty good hit rate with this routine, and most of the time it will pick up all of the labels. Very occasionally there'll be some doubt over to which line the label will apply to, and this can happen sometimes when there'll be an adjacent line sitting too close to a label, and it will just not have 100% assurity that it's picking up the right one, so it will just throw this exception and not convert it and surround it in this box. But for this one here, they're all positioned pretty well. Would expect the routine would pick these up without any trouble, so there must be something else going on with this drawing. And if we have a look at this line, we actually have a polyline for these abuttal lines here. So we've been unable to assess the individual line segments and match them up with the labels, so that's why these 3 haven't been converted. These 2 for this section here, and this little bit at the end here would have meant that your connection line wouldn't have been 14 meters long, and so it is throwing the exception in this case. So for this, it's a pretty easy fix. We're just going to explode the polyline, and I'll just get rid of these boxes because we don't need them anymore. And I will just run the text to block routine again. And here in our command line, we've got labels still to be replaced is 0, which means there are no text labels left on that layer in this drawing. And if we click on this, we can see it's been converted to our distance block. Just a couple of tips with using our new labels and the new routines. If you do import your line work and your labels from your surveying package into the DPL template, you just need to update them onto the A dist and A bearing layer, and then you can run the text to block tool at this early stage in the process. So we do advise that you do it quite early before the plan gets too complicated and you've got too many labels at too many different annotation scales. It's better to convert them first, and then if it's applying to the same line, you can copy it and change the annotative scale and position it where you need to. The flexibility with the block is when we've got this attribute data here, we can actually move it outside of a few of the tolerances that we've got for matching labels to line data in DPL. So there's just a little bit more clarity around which label applies to which line. As I said before, if you've got a drawing which is in the old template, and you'll need to just add the LSSA _ label block to your support files so that the routine can access that block when it runs. To summarize the changes that we've got, the updated bearing and distance tools in the LSSA CAD standard template will now generate labels as blocks rather than text. This will improve data extraction for DPL closures. We've got some new supplementary tools added to the tool palettes for efficiency. So that's BDC and BDPC. We've got our conversion tool, TTOB, text to block, which converts your old text labels to block labels. And these changes streamline drafting, reduce errors, and support the accurate reporting within the DPL closures report. For further details, refer to the CAD Standards Guide. You can access the DPL Plan Lodgement training material on the Land Services SA Industry Education Hub, or you can reach out to the LSSA DPL team through the DPL inbox, dpl@landservices.com.au.